Welcome to Inspired Living with Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Every Wednesday, Marc, along with his special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Marc will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Marc is a tested, certified, and professional spiritual medium, metaphysical teacher, healer, and spiritual advisor with a spiritual practice based in Seattle, Washington. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Inspired Living Radio. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, coming to you live here from the beautiful Pacific Northwest of Seattle, Washington. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about anxiety. We're going to be addressing some of the things on how we look at anxiety, how we beat anxiety, and how we manage anxiety on a daily basis. And if you want to work with me personally, you can get a hold of me in a few different ways. First is you can go to marclainhart.com, and that is your one-stop shop for all my upcoming events, recent articles that I've done, all of the Inspired Living Radio podcast, 4+ seasons that I've done over the last almost 5 years now as we move into the new decade of 2020. You can also catch my Monday live show on Facebook and YouTube called Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, starting at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's a half hour of inspiration, so it gets your Monday going over a cup of coffee. You got to have a coffee or tea, and you hang out with me live, and then we move into the Healing Cafe, where I actually do live readings with people all around the world, psychic, mediumship, awareness, intuition, metaphysics. Even if you just want to just sit in the community and say hello, we've got a wonderful community of people. Like I said, it's a global community, and we have a lot of fun every Monday morning. And then every Wednesday, well, I guess not every Wednesday. It used to be every Wednesday, but as we move into 2020, I'm going to be broadcasting twice a month now. Going to be the second and fourth week of each Wednesday. Second and fourth Wednesday of each month, that's what I'm trying to say. We'll be doing the same Inspired Living Radio with myself, where I'll be talking many topics, including today's topic about beating anxiety, what anxiety looks like, how we look at anxiety, and how all of us, there's over 20 million people today that deal with anxiety on a daily basis. And I'll also be having some amazing guests coming on. I'm scheduling that right now for 2020, so you'll want to pay attention to that with the upcoming shows. You can also follow me through Alexa. Just ask to open up Positive Living app, and you'll get daily inspirations and daily quotes from me if you're interested in learning more about spiritualism, metaphysics, mediumship, how to connect with the unseen world, what I call the etheric world. So today I will be taking questions. If you have a question, or you want to talk about anxiety and ways of beating anxiety, we'll be opening the phone lines here at OMTimes Media. My producer Chris will have the waiting room and put you in the waiting room until it's a good time to bring you on. The number to call is 202-570-7057. That is the OMTimes Radio call-in line. And I'm going to be doing more interaction with people that want to come on the air with me and ask questions. If you don't want to come live on the air with me, that's fine too. Another way to interact with the show is through our social media presence, and that is through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And the main page is our Facebook page, which is called Inspired Living Radio. It's a closed community, so you'll have to ask to join the Inspired Listening community of over 1,200 people now around the globe. And you can post a question there, and I'll bring it live to air. So if you have a question on anxiety, that's today's topic that we're going to be discussing. I'm going to be taking you on a meditation as well, talking about some medical intuition to help with anxiety and things that you may be dealing with, and some Better Living 101, something that I teach on in my workshops and my classes. And if you post a question on our Facebook page, I'll do my best to bring it live to air to address. If you are on Twitter or Instagram, the handle for us is Inspired for Us. That is the number 4. So Inspired, the number 4 Us, and you can post a question there. But I would recommend doing the Facebook page just for the fact that's the one page that I am monitoring as I'm live on the air. So today, just take a nice deep breath with me. and let's move into what I like to call the magic of the moment. And let's talk a little bit about anxiety. What can we do to beat anxiety? Why do we have anxiety? Is anxiety, an actual condition, or is it more of a symptom? And that's something that we're going to be looking at as well. And again, the number to call in is 202-570-7057. I would love to get your perspective or have a conversation with you about anxiety, because it's something that I didn't for a long time address myself. Somebody that's dealt with PTSD, somebody that has dealt with severe trauma, and a lot of times for those of us that are former first responders, myself being 8 years in the Coast Guard and 13 years as a professional firefighter EMT, we keep ourselves busy so we don't have to address PTSD or anxiety or the things that come with that. Health issues, and something that I've experienced even this year in 2019 has been a very difficult year, just dealing with low testosterone and adrenals and supplements and counseling, and a lot of it is driven by anxiety. And one of the quotes I wanted to start off with today, a place that I follow called healthyplace.com, and they're really good of inspiring people, and something that I like to do myself as an inspire is to help people address and to get their perspective and do a little spiritual prospecting for spiritual transformation, spiritual healing, and of course your own spiritual gold and whatever that means to you. And anxiety is something I thought I would bring to the airwaves for this podcast, to give you some examples of what to look for, talk about anxiety, knowing that it's not an actual thing that somebody is born with. You're not born with anxiety. When whatever your belief system is, when God is making people to incarnate here on the physical planet, blonde hair, dark hair, light skin, dark skin, blue eyes, green eyes, what have you, God doesn't just go, hey, I'm going to give this person anxiety and then to help them with their journey and just be hypersensitive to everything around them. I found in this journey that anxiety is really about processing what is going on around you in your external environment. And one of the quotes that I really enjoyed that when I started thinking about this topic to talk about on today's show, it talks about that my anxiety is silent. You wouldn't even notice a change on the outside, but I'm honestly so stressed I can't even manage simple tasks. People call me lazy when in reality I'm just overwhelmed. And, I'm sharing that with you, and that quote from healthyplace.com for the fact that something exactly what I went through. I started to realize that I didn't find things in life as exciting or as rewarding as I once used to. And I stopped, in a sense, even in my own mind, I thought I was calling myself lazy because I just couldn't manage simple tasks. And it's not that I'm being lazy, it's just because I was so overwhelmed. A lot of us go out into life and we're really good at putting a mask on and a smile on our face, especially if you work in the corporate world, or, I have a day job, part-time day job with the federal government, and, everybody's, really good about putting on that face and that mask, but underneath they're just suffering in silence, as I like to say. And that's not a fun place to be, because again, anxiety is silent, and it's usually a symptom of something. It's not a condition that you're born with. It is usually due to social conditioning, things that you've gone through in your life, whether it's a shakening that's caused the awakening, whether it is a trauma. Like for me, the trauma started back when I was 27 years of age with the murder of my brother, followed 3 days later by the diagnosis of my older brother with terminal brain cancer, followed by the deterioration of my father-in-law at the age of 47 to multiple sclerosis. So all three of those events happening at the same time is really when I started to have an understanding of what anxiety is, not knowing that years later I'd be suffering from PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And anxiety and PTSD, those are all disorders that we can all go through. And like I said, at any given moment, there are over 20 million people around the planet that suffer, especially here in the United States, with everything that we're going through historically, politically, religiously, social media, the news outlets. Everything is just going a mile a minute, and it's just really fast paced. And that can actually drive anxiety, that can drive that confusion, that like I said, just performing simple tasks, whether it's rapid eye blinking or just being hypersensitive to where you can't process. Hypersensitivity is a reaction or intolerance that refers to an undesirable reactions produced by what we would call the normal immune system, including allergies and autoimmunity. And hypersensitivity, when you are, overwhelmed with such, so many things, you just almost shut down. It's almost too much for the nervous system to process, undesirable reactions, and the immune system then goes into overdrive, if you will, and that's where we get into hypersensitivity. So if you notice somebody that is really just, I have to say I've got a really good network of colleagues and friends that have really been keeping an eye on me and, worried about me because I've kind of gone off the grid a little bit and kind of not been as inactive and inspiring as I once was over this last year of 2019, and kind of not doing simple tasks. And they asked me, hey, are you not yourself? Or are you just not want to do it? Are you being lazy? Or you just? And I finally said, no, I think I'm dealing with something that I don't know how to deal with. And long story short, ended up being low testosterone. Tests for you guys out there that are middle-aged like myself. Pay attention to your hormones. It's something that we don't always talk about, but I had no testosterone in my body because over the years of being hypersensitive, responding to other people's tragedies, my anxiety kicked in and releases cortisol, which is a stress hormone, into the body that helps protect the body, fight or flight mechanism, if you will. And the testosterone works, just like insulin works to regulate for somebody that might be diabetic. Testosterone regulates to move stress out of the body, to move cortisol out of the body. And this is something that was taught to me by my naturopath. I had no idea why I was exhibiting foggy brain or fatigue or just being lazy and not wanting to engage with anything. And I even myself knew that was a problem. I just thought, well, maybe I'm working through some depression of things that have come to light in 2019, and just dealing with that. So real quick, let me just turn this off. Boy, when you're live on the air and your heater kicks on, boy, that really is loud in your speakers. So sorry about that. My actual heater decided it wanted to turn on, and all I could hear was the heater running. So it's a little bit cold here in Seattle, so I'm not used to having my heaters on. So you may have heard a little bit of wind there. But what I was saying was, for us guys, we don't think about low testosterone or our adrenals, which is connected to our immune system and our nervous system. And when we're impacted and hypersensitive and dealing with trauma, dealing with stress, it really can bring you to a place of fatigue, of not wanting to do simple tasks. Now, I didn't realize I'd have to give myself a weekly shot probably for the rest of my life, but that's part of what I've done as a first responder, and part of what my doctor has said is being Pavlov's dog, which is social conditioning to my environment. So anxiety, when you hear somebody say that they're an anxious person, they're not really born with anxiety. They're not an anxious person. They're more of just trying to process, or maybe they're so hypersensitive or empathic that they don't know how to process. And if you don't know how to process, then like I said, it's kind of the system ends up shutting down, and that's corresponded to anxiety, depression, sensitivity, being an empathic. And it's not a bad thing, guys. Just because you have anxiety or PTSD or depression, you're not broken. It's just finding new ways to process and to deal with anxiety. And today's show, that's what we're going to be talking about, beating anxiety. I'm going to take you through a nice meditation when we come back from the break. Going to give you some ways of moving into Healthy Living 101. It's something I created back because I remember my college days taking my 101 courses to begin my college journey. And it's kind of the same thing with life. We're always learning. We're always moving into those 101 classes. And so I'm going to give you some tips on Better Living 101. I'm going to go over some of my medical intuition charts about the different chakras and dealing with anxiety, and just different ways that you can beat anxiety, depression, PTSD, and move past that. Again, it's something that it's a condition, it's a symptom. You are not broken if you go through this, whether you're a man or a woman. It's just now prospecting to ways to fix and to work through some of your struggles, to heal, to transform, to transcend, so you can move into a place of happiness, move into a place of peace, move into a place of living again, so you don't feel like you're overwhelmed and feeling lazy and fatigued or foggy brain. Again, there's a lot of symptoms that come with anxiety. So again, rapid eye blinking, fatigue, feeling lazy, not wanting to engage, nothing makes you happy. These are all signs of anxiety and depression. And again, the immune system not knowing how to respond to all the many different moving parts that we are going through. I always say that anxiety isn't weakness. Living with anxiety, turning up and doing stuff with anxiety takes strength most will never know. So it does take great strength to first have awareness. And I'll be giving you the FAR technique, something that I've used in my own journey to help me go farther in my path, my spiritual journey, my physical journey, my mental journey, my emotional journey, and of course my spiritual journey. But having anxiety is not a weakness, and you're not broken. It's just you're not knowing how to either process it, to deal with it, and what your perception is of anxiety, which in society, unfortunately, if you have depression or PTSD or anxiety, then you're viewed upon as being broken. And I'm here today with this show to inspire you and to encourage you and to get you thinking outside the box that anxiety is just a symptom. And when we come back from our first break, we will address some ways of beating anxiety. So again, if you want to call in, I'll be taking calls, 202-570-7057. That is the OMTimes radio call-in line. I'd love to hear from you if you've got a question or you've been battling anxiety, depression, PTSD. Let's have a chat. Let's do a little bit of spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual goal. This is Inspired Living Radio, and we'll be back here in 2 minutes.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. So I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Hey everybody. everybody. Welcome back to Inspired Living Radio. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector here in Seattle, Washington. If you want to work directly with me, just do an internet search for the Intuitive Prospector or go to marclainhart.com. That is your one-stop shop for all spiritual prospecting to locate whatever your spiritual goal is. Love to work with you, whether it's a reading, a workshop, a spiritual hike, mentoring, classes, whatever you're looking for. You can find me at marclainhart.com, or you can find me here every second and fourth Wednesday now of the month for Inspired Living Radio, where we like to say be inspired, inspire others, and definitely inspire before we all expire. You can also find me Monday mornings over on my Facebook Live, Intuitive Prospector, or my YouTube channel, The Intuitive Prospector, where I have a video library of 300 plus videos now of soul adventures, as I like to say, so you can subscribe, catch the replays of this show, of my Mocha Monday show. And today we're talking about beating anxiety. And before the break, I was talking about what anxiety is. So as I clear my throat here, and we're talking about anxiety as a symptom. It's not something that you're born with. You can have, be diagnosed with anxiety or hypersensitivity or depression or PTSD. But a lot of times this is an overcoming event, something that you just need to learn how to process, something that I had to first become familiar with. And one of the techniques that I love to use and help people in their daily journey of dealing with anxiety is what I call the FAR technique, FAARR. And the first one is to feel what's going on in your external environment, what comes into your orbit, what comes into your awareness. And when we feel stuff versus always thinking it, we feel it, we have awareness to it, we acknowledge it. Those are the first three letters of the FAR. And then we start to respond to that. That's the first R in the FAR technique. And then the second R is releasing it. Now, again, let me recap. Feeling it, awareness to it, acknowledging it, responding to it, and releasing it. And when you can use this technique, or what I call the FAR technique, you can go farther in your physical journey, in your spiritual journey, and just in life in general. But a lot of times we have to feel it, because if we don't feel it and acknowledge it, sometimes it comes back later in life and it bites us in the butt. And that's kind of what happened to me with my own journey. And a lot of what I'm sharing is basically stuff that I've either dealt with and gone through, whether it's through, trauma, whether it's spiritual awakening. I do a lot of work psychically and mediumship work, walking between worlds, working with things I see and working with things I don't see, but I actually feel. And I had to work through feeling a lot of my history, my past, and things that had happened to me, but also acknowledging that and having a sense of, healing and an attitude for gratitude, that I acknowledge it, that I no longer have to hold on to it, and I can release that. And that helps with your anxiety. So feel it, have awareness to what's going on, acknowledge, respond. And again, sometimes not responding is a response. So don't feel just because I'm saying respond that you actually have to respond to something, whether it's something on social media, which we're really good at doing right now. Everybody has an opinion and wants to respond to everything. Sometimes just being the observer and not responding to things is an actual response in itself, and it can actually bring you a lot more peace and satisfaction by not responding, and then just acknowledging how you best release that. Do you release that mentally? Do you write it down on a piece of paper and crumple it up and put it in the garbage, light it on fire, put it in a bottle, put it in the freezer and freeze it out so you have a mental construct of what that looks like? But as far as using that technique, the FAR technique, if you use it daily, because again, the only thing that matters is what's going on in what I call the magic of the moment on your journey today, listening to this radio show, this podcast, because your imagination creates a future that's not guaranteed, and your past is created by your memories. And you can't go back and change those either. So I always remind people the importance of being in the magic of the moment, finding power in the now. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book on the power of now, and that's why it's such an international bestseller, because there's a lot of truth of dealing with the now and being here in the now and dealing with that. So, there's that old saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That is why we call this the present. So what are you doing in your journey right now for your present? What kind of present are you opening? Are you opening a present filled with depression, anxiety, PTSD, negativity, doubt? Or are you open in a present that's full of inspiration and hope and transformations and healing and encouragement and moving forward in your life? One of the things that has really helped me in finding ways to be happier and calmer when it comes to anxiety is to recognize that I'm doing the best that I can. And that's all I can expect from myself. A great book out there, if you haven't read it, it's called The Four Agreements. I refer to it often. I remind my clients and those that I'm teaching and mentoring to come back to the Four Agreements because there's a lot of truth. I think there's 5 agreements now with the rewrite, but I've always gone back just to the Four Agreements. It's doing what you say you're going to do your best at what you're going to do. Don't make assumptions and don't take things personally, because when you get outside of that scope, you start to take things personally. The ego wants to jump in, the competition wants to jump in, the anxiety wants to jump in. And if you are making assumptions, a lot of times that mind is so powerful. When you make assumptions, a lot of them aren't true. And a lot of the energy that you're spending on assumptions in the what if world and forecasting for something that never comes into fruition, you're wasting your time. So one of the ways that I work on finding happiness and being calmer in my daily journey, the moment of my journey, is I recognize that I'm doing the best that I can. And that's all I can expect from myself. A lot of times we have a lot of expectations. And in my journey and in my experiences, the more expectations we have of people, of this world, of ourselves, the more self-disappointment we're going to run into. And when we have self-disappointment come into our soul adventure, our journey, our health, our families, our friends, that it just causes strife. It causes division, it causes stress, it causes anxiety, it causes all the things that we don't want. So recognize that you're doing your best. I'm doing my best right now for this radio show. I recognize that I'm here, I'm present, I'm on the OMTimes radio platform, doing my best to deliver a message talking about beating anxiety. That's today's message. And not expecting a lot for myself, just sharing my journey of what I've gone through over the last decade. My brothers have been gone in the spirit world for almost 20 years now, but it's been 20 years in working through, my own transformations and, the caterpillar, if you will, going through the cocoon phase of the struggle within that cocoon, becoming the butterfly and the transformation, or the lotus flower growing up something bigger and better than itself out of the mud and the muck. There's all sorts of analogies about how to move forward. And now I just recognize that I'm doing the best that I can with the time that I have here in the magic of the moment. Because again, guys, your greatest commodity is your time. It's not money. And I hate to say this because you don't get to take the stuff you buy with you when you transfer back into the spirit world or the etheric world or heaven, whatever your belief system is. And it really is your time. That is your greatest commodity. So what are you doing today, right now, in the magic of the moment as you hear my voice, to make the best of time, to make the best of your life? I always say journaling daily can be very, very beneficial because you're writing a lot of what you're feeling down on paper. You're bringing it out of your conscious mind into your physical reality, which carries energy with that. So, some of you may be saying, well, what is journaling? How and why is it important to journal? Because it creates an intention and energy in the laws of physics and in the laws of metaphysics. We talk about intentions and how energy follows that intention. So by writing it down on paper and journaling daily and having that attitude for gratitude and counting your blessings, if you will, it creates a more positive vibration in your auric field, your energy, and that ripples out into the world. And, whatever journaling, if you're not a writer, journaling can be also digital. You can also record it into with the technology that we have. I've got an iPhone and it's got voice notes, and I can do voice notes and record that. Write it on paper. I'm trying to think of another way. Type it out in an email and send it to yourself. There's many ways to do journaling versus just pen and paper, digitally, voice and or email. But I always find just sometimes less is more, and just go back to the roots of paper and pen. It's been around for millennia since they started, chiseling out of stone and making paper. So I always go back to the basics. But, these are ways to feel happier, to feel calmer, to process anxiety. Because like I said, the process of anxiety is not something that you're born with. It's a condition. It's a symptom of how you are processing or not processing. You got to think about that as well. because a lot of times the brain is very, very powerful. We have a great, amazing supercomputer in our head. That's why it lives in between what we call two temples. It's a temple unto itself. And we think, therefore we are. We have consciousness. We have a way of connecting. But sometimes it can be a curse because we overthink stuff as well. We tend to have these, what I call these drunken monkeys in our mind running around with all these different theories and concepts. You don't need to listen to every thought in your head, guys. You don't have to, believe everything that you've been told. I talked on my show on Monday about prudence and listening and learning and making an informed decision with what's going on. And there's a lot coming at us with technology and social media and news and politics and religion. And violence in the world. So use prudence and learning to incorporate wisdom into your journey, because prudence is making informed decisions and being informed what's right for you and processing some of that information. I always say that overthinking will destroy your happiness and your mood. It will make everything worse than it actually is. The mind wants to make things more serious than what it is. So take a deep breath. Exhale that breath. Change your mind focus to having faith, to having hope. What's meant to be will be. You can't always, control what's going on in your world. So take another deep breath and exhale. These are all just little techniques just to help calm the mind, because again, that overthinking stimulates anxiety and stimulates stress, stimulates to where the body, the nervous system, you become hypersensitive, and the adrenals or your testosterone or your hormones or your nervous system stop working as they should, and you're always in a sense of fight or flight, going from one thing to the next. And what happens is, if you're not into a place of homeostasis, and that's a place of being right-centered, a place of balance, homeostasis, make sure to look that up. What happens is the body starts to be at disease or dis-ease with itself, and that's where we start having all sorts of ailments, whether it's medical, physical, emotional, spiritual, and we then want to take pills, and now we've just made the problem worse, when a lot of it can be holistically approached and dealing with how you're even just processing information. And it all starts with what I call the spiritual ABCs: breath, awareness, connecting. Breath, awareness, connecting. So take 5 to 10 minutes if you can in your very busy, crazy, chaotic life that you are living. Just take 5 to 10 minutes to meditate. Just simply sit in the silence. A good practice that I do is in the shower. I know that I'm not going to be disturbed. The water's rushing over my body. Water's a great conduit of energy. And just sit for a second. Listen to the water running over the body. Listen to the water going down the drain. There's a lot of answers that can be connected to in the silence. Great philosophers, great gurus of history past have talked about the answers lie in the silence. Rumi is very big, and I use him all the time, about the more silent and still we become, the more we actually hear. And again, stillness and quietness, because when we sit in stillness, we relax the brain. When we move, that triggers consciousness. The brain goes, oh, I need to move my arm. And then your brain is not resting. So try to get to a place of silence and stillness just for 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. You don't need to sit in a certain pose and wear certain clothes and do all that, hubbub. Just sit with yourself in a place where there's no distractions. Like I said, for me, it's in the shower, in a meditative room, in a quiet room. Put on some noise-reducing headphones and just move into 5 to 10 minutes of meditation and sitting in the silence. For those of you that have prayer or belief in prayer, that's thought going out. Those are your wants and desires in life. What do you want? That's prayer. But are you listening back to what meditation can bring to your life and to your journey in a way of beating anxiety? A lot of us don't meditate. We're really good at praying and what we want, but we're not necessarily sitting back to listen to that ripple effect to come back of what we're asking for. Spend time with safe friends and family. Don't be afraid to ask for support, guys. Like I said in the beginning, anxiety is silent, and you wouldn't even notice a change on the outside. But if people are open and honest, and that they're stressed and that they're overwhelmed, and whether people are calling you lazy or you're yourself calling yourself lazy, like I was, not knowing that I suffered from literally having no testosterone in my body, I just thought, man, I'm getting old, I'm getting lazy, not working out, not just fatigued, foggy. and clarity of mind or focus, and come to find out it's your hormones. And now I have to, regulate that. And I'm okay with that because I feel 10 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times better than what I was the last 6 months of 2019. And, I reached out to some friends, some people that helped educate me, safe friends, people that are going to support you, not play devil's advocate, not, try to be an antagonist or a catalyst of what, they want to see for your life, but safe friends that really support you, your authentic self, and they're going to tell you the true truth. They're going to give you the truth and not fluff it. Those are what I call safe friends and family. If you have safe friends and family, then don't be afraid to ask for support. Take care of your health, eat well, sleep well, drink lots of water, get that, water intake is very, very important. Just even waking up in the first thing in the morning, drink a lot of water because your body's already dehydrated. So a lot of times I do the 80-20, focus 20% on problems and 80% on solutions. How can you leave things better than how you found it? And sometimes that's not an easy place to go, especially if you're suffering from anxiety and depression or PTSD, because it's usually just the opposite. It's about 80% focus on the problems and 20% on the solutions. So try to use the 80-20 format of what is 20% of focusing on the problem at hand, or what's 80% of finding the solution to that problem, and let go of what you can't control, guys. It's so important. Like I said, just recognize that you're doing the best. You can't control everything in life. You can only control what comes into your journey, how you respond to that. That's the only thing you're really ever in control of. And, like my mentors taught me, a lot of times the problem is irrelevant. No matter what you're dealing with, it's about how you approach it and what your thoughts are to that problem. So let me say that again. Your problems are irrelevant. It's how you respond to the problem that's the most important. What you overcome. People say, oh, that can't be done. I've listened to a lot of pundits and experts, and a lot of times they don't get the stuff right. Even though they're experts, I don't know if I've ever seen a statue erected in the form of a skeptic or a pundit. So, a lot of times I believe, through prudence, being informed and making a sound, informed decision for my journey, not what other people say. And I believe there's a lot of things that can be done. Somebody that's maybe had a severed spine, not giving up or giving in and walking again. I think of the gentleman that has no arms or any legs. And I'm sitting here feeling sorry for myself. And this guy's out, swimming in the ocean and diving and being a motivational speaker, and he has no arms or no legs. I'd like to say probably my most when people say, who's your most inspirational person that drives the work that I do, my show, my spiritual work, my articles, it's my niece, Sarah. Who is in Spokane, Washington, and has severe cerebral palsy. She's in her 30s now, and she's never walked in her life. She's never been out of a bed or a wheelchair. If you're not familiar with cerebral palsy, it's like equivalent to having 100 times the gravity effect of what you and I feel, and the body is just very tight and conformed and can't move. So if I'm having a rough go, I always think on her as the one person that motivates me and inspires me. And a lot of the work I do today is because of her. So when we come back from our second break, our final break, we're going to get into a waterfall meditation, and we're going to continue to talk about ways to beat anxiety. This is Inspired Living Radio. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Have you wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
Death Row Dogs Rescue is a 100% all-volunteer, no-kill rescue 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are run solely by volunteers who dedicate their time and resources for the past 30 years to rescuing homeless pets from the streets in Los Angeles and surrounding areas, and from city and county animal shelters who are on death row, often moments away from being euthanized. We provide housing, medical care, and training to these neglected, abused, and often severely injured animals. Donate now, save a life, and allow these beautiful dogs to experience a home life filled with love. All donations are greatly appreciated and are tax deductible. Please visit www.deathrowdogsrescue.com to see some of our amazing dogs who need homes. Do not breed or buy. Make adoption your first option.
Welcome back to Inspired Living Radio. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, talking about beating anxiety, beating depression, beating PTSD, things that are symptoms, not conditions that you have to live with for the rest of your life. I always like to say that, when it comes to anxiety and beating anxiety, anxiety is like a rocking chair. It gives us something to do, but it does not take us very far if you think about a rocking chair. So if you're sitting with anxiety, it's like sitting in that rocking chair. Are you moving very far? Is it taking you to where you want to go to find joy and happiness and peace and move past? I always say that, if I get nervous about everything, sometimes I literally don't know why I'm anxious. I just am, and no one seems to understand that. And that's a lot of truth. Sometimes it's just the processing of what's coming into your environment, what's coming into through your eyes to your brain, and how you're processing that information. We're going to be doing a quick meditation so you can kind of sit for 5 minutes and just sit with what is anxiety for you? What is depression? What is PTSD? Some of the things that, I like to remind people, and to keeping ways of, easing the anxiety or the depression when it comes into your mind. Again, it's more of a processing. Are you going too fast? Are you moving too quick? So I find that in ways to ease the anxious mind, the monkeys that are running around your mind, slow down. Take the time to disconnect so you have the time to reconnect. A lot of times when you have anxiety, and I've experienced this myself, it's your thoughts are racing. You may have rapid eye movement or blinking of the eyes. The heart is pounding heavily out of your chest. Almost it feels at times like you're having a heart attack. I remember when I first had my first anxiety panic attack, I literally thought I was having a heart attack. They rushed me to the hospital, put me on an EKG, 12-lead EKG. My heart was fine. They're like, you're just having a panic attack, because I was dealing with so much between my brother being murdered, 5 murder trials to go through, my brother in a nursing home at the age of 34, dying from brain cancer, and then just burying my father-in-law from multiple sclerosis. So it was very much to take on traumatically, the trauma of it. And I just felt like I couldn't catch my breath, and everything was going a mile a minute. And that's really kind of, through those events, through those soul adventures, even as tragic and sad that they are, it began my spiritual journey to where I find myself today talking and connecting with you here through the sound radio waves, or doing a reading here in my studio, or connecting with somebody all the way across the world through a video. And it's through biofeedback. It's addressing how I'm processing for information, and ways to slow down, ways to bring your breath into the body and really slow the heart rate so it doesn't feel like it's pounding out of your chest. So slow down. Take the time to disconnect so you can find the time to reconnect. Come to your senses, as I like to say. Take a few minutes just to connect with what I call the senses. We all have our 5 senses: see it, taste it, touch it, hear it, smell it. So use aromatherapy to smell it. Touch an object that maybe brings you peace or calmness, whether that's a crystal or a stone or a rock, or gardening, to get your hands into the dirt. But come back to the magic in the moment. Even just the sounds, a singing bowl, or my chimes, my famous chimes here. Take a deep breath with me. These are coming to your senses. These are ways of beating anxiety. And that's what we're talking about today. Ways of beating anxiety, dealing with anxiety, overcoming anxiety. Because again, just when you think you have it beat, it's going to creep back up and come into your journey, because there's going to be more life coming at you. And I always remind people that life is an acronym. Learn it from experience, because it's going to be experience. And if you just sit with this anxiety like a rocking chair and you don't address it, you're just going to sit and marinate in it and keep percolating and realize why you're not moving forward. Spend time with people who bring out the best in you, not those that stress you out. This is something I've really been dealing with in my own journey personally, with family and friends, and really kind of limiting, my interactions with people that only stress me out, or what I call triggers or antagonists that only cause you to feel that anxiety or anger or resentment. Try to spend time with people who bring out the best in you, not the worst in you. Use your 5 senses. Slow down. Do a reality check. Ask yourself, is this thought that I have going in my brain, is it actually true? Or is it something that I've heard, or somebody said something, whether it's words that have been transferred to us or projected onto us, or if you know the term gaslighting, a lot of gaslighting going on right now in our society, guys. False narratives, false news, fake news, whatever you want to call that. That's where prudence comes in, and learning and wisdom, because you're making an informed decision and, asking yourself and using your senses. You are the equipment. Use your senses to come to the best thought possible, and ask yourself, is this thought absolutely true? And just feel with it. Use that FAR technique. Feel with that thought. Have awareness to the thought. Acknowledge the thought. Respond to the thought or not respond to it, and release it. Just like osmosis is water passing through a membrane, our thoughts, anywhere between 50 and 60,000 thoughts on a given day, pass through our brain. What I say is a flesh membrane, like osmosis, and you need to process in whatever way is right for you on what thoughts are actually true, what thoughts are not, and are your thoughts making things more realistic or more heightened and intense than they really need to be. Chances are your worst fears are just that, fears. And I always remind people, fear for me is false evidence appearing real. Somebody that's spent many years as a first responder, I know what true fear looks like, whether it's rushing into a burning building while other people are running out, going on a sinking boat, worrying about if it's going to take me under. And the body does one of three things in a real fearful situation. The body knows it's going to fight, flight, or freeze in any given situation. Anything other than that, we're creating it within our mind. So chances are your worst fears are just that, your own fears that you've created a false evidence appearing real. So use your senses, slow down, do a reality check. These are all little techniques that you can do. I always say release the inner critic, release that person that loves to do self-sabotage. Find ways to be kinder to yourself. Like I was saying, with the ways of being happier and calmer, recognize that you're doing the best that you can, and you're right where you need to be. These are all tips to help you. Sometimes I just say, go outside, touch a tree, hug a tree, lay down, look at the sky, know that you're part of something bigger than yourself. And, cloud watching can be very relaxing. Bird watching can be very relaxing. Do things that quiet the mind. And of course, listen to your body, know your triggers, listen to the words coming into you. A lot of times you can be very proactive in limiting what comes into your environment that causes, anything that causes catalysts of triggers, or, people that, want to create strife, and they're out there. So, get enough sleep in what you're doing. Try to declutter the brain if you can. Smile more, frown less. There's that thing about how many muscles it takes to smile versus how many muscles it takes to frown. My grandma used to say, turn that frown upside down and pull that lip in, or a bird's going to come poop on your lip. So declutter the brain, just like we have physical clutter. We have mental clutter as well, and sometimes it can be very messy in our minds. So you've got to find ways to relax and, take those 15, 20, 30 minutes just to tidy up your brain, just like you do in your living space. You clean, you tidy it up. The same works with your brain. Declutter the brain. Express gratitude. Try to have an attitude for gratitude. When you're feeling down, try to find what I call the Grateful 8 things that I'm grateful for. Pay attention to the foods that you're eating. Are you eating a lot of unhealthy foods, a lot of sugars, a lot of junk food? That can really impact, the hormones in your body and how your body reacts and how it regulates your body. Learn to breathe. Breath is a very, very powerful tool. It's easy. It's free. It has unlimited resources. So make sure that you're tapping into breathing true, breathing deep. And we're going to do that real quick just for the sake of time. Got a quick waterfall meditation that I want to do with you, talking about the power of breath, meditation, creating vision boards, playing around, being silent. And what I want you to do is I want you just to take a nice deep breath with me. Let's move into the magic of the moment. And as you're sitting here, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you're in a beautiful forest high in the mountains, and you are seated comfortably on a moss-covered rock a short distance from a high waterfall. And in the distance, you can hear this waterfall. It lands in the deep pool before flowing further downstream. Just like in life, always moving forward, never knowing what's around the next bend. The river is surrounded by tall evergreen trees that provide a high canopy and shade. As you sit on this moss-covered rock, you notice that the air is cool, it's comfortable, and you feel a gentle breeze blowing through the trunks of the trees around you. Taking a nice deep breath, breathing in love, breathing in connection, breathing in gratitude, releasing stress, releasing anxiety, beating anxiety. Now imagine for a moment that you can feel all of your frustrations and negative emotions physically in your body. Imagine that they are all manifested as a kind of tar or sludge that is accumulated in different areas throughout your body. Maybe it's in your bones, the thoughts in your brain, your connective tissues of your joints, the soft tissues of your body, any fears, any negative thoughts or feelings, any emotions that you would like to let go. Imagine that these are all trapped within your body and in this sludge. Could you stay with this feeling a moment, even if it's a little bit unpleasant? Addressing your anxiety, addressing your depression, addressing your negative thoughts or your PTSD. Even how unpleasant it is or challenging it is, just sit with that feeling for a second as we get ready to release this all into the pool of the waterfall that flows before us as we sit on this moss-covered rock. Taking another nice deep breath. Could you let go of any resistance to these thoughts or emotions and let them be here in your body for just a second more? Just for the now. Just be here for a moment and feel what you feel, accepting that this is truth, this is your reality, and you have a choice to reject it or accept it. You have a choice. Do you want anxiety to be a part of your life? Be in that rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you very far. Or do you want to release all of the anxiety, the depression, the stress, the worry, the fear into this beautiful pool of the waterfall as it moves farther downstream? You have a choice. You are in charge of this. You decide. You have a choice. Is there any part of you that is grateful for what these negative emotions taught you in the past on your journey into this moment? If there is, stay here with the feeling of gratitude for just a little while. If there's not, that's okay. Could you accept that too and remain in the moment and surrender to whatever you are feeling right now? Now imagine that you're standing up and walking over towards the base of the waterfall. This beautiful, magnificent waterfall before you. The spray falling over your face, the gentle breeze. You feel a faint mist of water hitting your face and your arms that gets you stronger and stronger as you approach closer to this beautiful waterfall, the waterfall of your life. Just as all your negative emotions are now physically manifested in your body, this waterfall is a physical manifestation of pure source energy and connection to being. This is the moment where you decide to release your stress, to release your anxiety, your depression, your PTSD, things that hold you back, things that keep you from your authentic higher self. At the base of the waterfall, at the water's edge, this is your choice. This is where you can release and move forward into joy and happiness, or sit to hold on to these negative thoughts, feelings, emotions that cause anxiety. Take a second to understand what you want to do with this. You have a choice. You have a choice. Do you want to hold on and get dragged with this through life? Or do you want to let go and be free? The choice is always your own. Take another nice deep breath. Breathe in what you want, releasing what you don't, and make your choice right now on what you'd like to do on beating anxiety, beating depression, beating stress, beating fear, beating your PTSD, whatever it is for you. And so it is. The choice is always yours to make. I want to thank you for hanging out with me today on today's show, talking about beating anxiety. I'll be here after the holidays. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a New Year to you as we move into a new decade of 2020. It's always an honor and a privilege to connect with you, and I look forward to what 2020 is going to bring for all of us. Again, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and most importantly, until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and I'll see you for another episode of Inspired Living Radio here on the OMTimes Radio Network. Namaste.